Every coach, every organization, every league, every facility should have that kind of information at their fingertips. Well, hi there. As promised, we're going to talk now to Dr. Stephen Horwitz with TeamSafeSports.com. And we do news, we do information, we do sports, but a lot of this information is the kind of stuff that people, if you have a child involved in any level of sports, if you have a grandchild, if you have a neighbor, a kid you care about, you have got to have this information. And not only do you have to have this information, the leagues and the coaches and the facilities, everyone needs this type of follow-up and this type of information. So, with that set up, Dr. Horwitz, welcome. Thank you for joining us on Unsafe Spaces.
Thank you so much, Randy. It's a privilege to be here. Thank you.
And your app, and obviously is entailed as it is, but looking through the website, looking through the information, it's something that when I first talked to you and first started looking into this, I was stunned that this A, hadn't been done before, B, wasn't just the accepted rule as to how you did this, especially in today's technologically based environment where everybody's got a phone, everybody's got apps on their phones. How did you come up with this idea?
My personal history of being involved with youth sports, just from being on the sidelines with kids all the way up to the Olympic Games, educating coaches, teaching CPR for over 30 years, being a coach, being a board member of a league, still dabbling as a wannabe athlete, even now. So I get competition. I completely get competition. I completely get that, athletes are not going to say anything. But what I realized was at the youth sport level, and when I say youth sports, I mean 5 to 14-year-olds, there's just nothing. And when I was out on the sidelines, I just saw the utter lack of preparedness, because frequently at youth events, and I'm not talking about more typical youth events, like a football game where there's likely going to be somebody, even at the youth level, at the game, there might be an EMT, there might be an athletic trainer. But what about soccer and field hockey and volleyball? Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, there's really nothing. So when I saw there was nothing, I said I had to do something about it.
You bring up a great point, because we all say youth level of sports, and define what youth really is by definition.
Yeah, in at least in the sports medicine literature, that definition of youth really applies to high school, because there's something out of the University of Colorado called Reporting Injuries Online, which is a database that athletic trainers can report injuries into. But there's nothing for youth, and youth is younger than high school, right? Elementary school, middle school, from when your kids start to play sports up through that middle school level. So they hit 13, 14, 14 years old, then they're in high school. Then there's some semblance of, at least on paper, some type of organization. And I do say on paper, maybe even say that somewhat sarcastically and sadly, because it frequently is just on paper.
Yeah, because I can't tell you how often in a bag, and I was thinking back to when my youngest it was a son, and he was involved in baseball and football and basketball and whatnot, and coaches have a folder on kids, but that's what it is, a folder. So, it's just something that to me was startling, that how to compile that information is something that you guys offer coaches and leagues and whatnot, but also more importantly, like you just said, if youth is high school, good God, what is the gap below that 14 to, let's say, 8? How many kids are involved in that level of sport where, I don't mean this the wrong way, but in that context, it's kind of the wild, wild west because there's not much in the way of help or resources out there for people, is there?
Yeah, I mean, the statistics are 20, 40, 60 million kids in youth sports all the way up to 18, and about 8 million-ish play high school. So that leaves 10, 20 plus million kids in the youth area. And that binder that you mentioned, at least from what I've seen, that's truly a best case scenario, because I rarely see a binder. And then, is that binder up to date? And maybe that's a kind of a good segue into maybe the first issue in youth sports safety is, how come the high school kids need to take a sports physical, but the youth kids don't? So when you have that binder on the youth kids and your organization doesn't require a physical, how accurate is the information in the binder?
Right.
It's a little scary.
Now, how difficult is there? If I'm a coach or I'm a league right now, I'm hearing this. How difficult is it for them to compile the information you need, or B, even download it and get it to the app where it can be, put out by player and everything else that it needs to be done?
Well, the way they do it now, typically, I mean, I just spoke to some organizers of youth football. I don't want to say where, and they say they have a binder and they feel comfortable that it's up to date, because at least with their organizations, they require the sports physicals. But he kind of shook his head and said, but it's still all on paper, and it's a real hassle to get that. So in our Team Safe sports system, the parent just answers questions and can snap pictures of the sports physical. Hopefully everybody's using the American Academy of Pediatric Sports Physical form, which is only 3 pages. Snap the 3 pictures and it's in the database. 1, 2, 3. And then you have your whole roster on your phone, and you can see which kids have what issues. Do you know it's hot now? Do you know which kids of yours have sickle cell trait?
Right.
Every baby in the United States has been tested for at least the last decade. So if a parent would know that information. Well, certainly should know, because their baby was tested. So if you don't know that information, we have some major problems. If you're in Texas or Florida or Georgia or Arizona, and you're playing in the heat, and we don't know that child is more susceptible. It doesn't mean they can't play, just means they're more susceptible and needs a longer, slower, acclimatization process.
Well, even down to, food allergies and
Bingo.
Insect allergies, and who would require an EpiPen, and how many EpiPens are being carried, and all those type of things, right?
Oh my gosh. My neighbor has a volleyball program, and it's 80 girls, and I asked him, do your kids have any medical conditions? And he said no. But then I continued to ask him, hey, how about that thing you stick in the thigh called an EpiPen? He goes, oh my gosh, I have 2 kids that need it. So he said, my kids don't have any medical conditions, yet 2 of them have life-threatening medical conditions. And then we went on to the discussion of, where's the EpiPen? Well, the parents come to all the tournaments, because volleyball is tournament. Right. I said, well, you just have a brand new practice facility. Oh, the parents just dropped them off. And then as soon as he said that, he froze, and he said, oh my gosh, the parents drop them off and they have the EpiPen. So when they're with me for the next 90 minutes to 2 hours, I don't have the EpiPen.
Mm-hmm.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Ouch.
As a parent, what can I do right now? I hear this. I hear about your message. I'm just learning about your app. What are the proper steps? What do I do? I mean, is it as simple as talking to the coach, talk to the league?
I think in today's world, you need to politely demand.
Yeah.
It's the safety of your child. I'm not one of these let's stop all youth sports kind of people. I had my fondest memories in youth sports. I love youth sports, but there's no reason to not have safety, and they're not mutually exclusive. So it's just as simple as telling your league, when asking your league. I've asked parents, do you even know? I asked softball leagues right local to where I am in Texas. Do you know if the coaches know CPR? And I just got deer in the headlights.
Mm-hmm.
I like, Mom, Dad, are you kidding? It's softball. There's something called commotio cordis where the ball can hit your chest at exactly the wrong time and interrupt the electrical signal to the heart. And without an AED, and it's happened, your child's dead. And it's happened, and it doesn't have to happen. And I just get deer in the headlights. And, our attitude of, it won't happen to me is way too prevalent until it does. And now you have, heat organizations of poor parents where their kids died of heat, they have the kid's name on it. And sudden cardiac arrests, and they have the kid's name on it. And head injuries and concussions, and they have the kid's name on it. And blunt trauma, and they have the kid's name on it. And I can go on and on.
Right.
Instead of having a preparedness system.
And like you say, this preparedness system, and at all levels, it should include some sort of trained individual on site. I mean, ideally, and it's not going to happen, but, it's an EMT type. But, all leagues can't afford that kind of coverage. But the coaches and the people involved should not only have some sort of training, they should have this kind of information at their fingertips.
Yeah, I mean, all parents should advocate for athletic trainers, paramedics, somebody like that on the sidelines. But like you say, that's unfortunately not reality. And even if we have that, we still need some type of system so there can be proper communication and documentation, because those are the two words, if you talk to any attorney, that always come up are lack of communication and documentation. But in the world of youth sports, we just want to cover those first 5, 10, hopefully not longer than 20 or 30 minutes until the ambulance comes. So it's those decisions that are made in those first few minutes that can make or break the outcome. And if we have the kids' data right in front, I've shown our Team Safe Sports app to EMTs and trainers, and like, oh my God, this would be so great to have all the kids' information, what medication are they on, et cetera, right in front of me, like right there, right when I arrive. And then the decision-making processes of, the kid may or may not have had a concussion. They see the doctor with the parent. Well, where's the doctor's note? Oh, I can't tell you how many where the doctor's note stories there are. Where's the doctor's note? What does the date on the note even mean? Because in the high school world and up, that means you're going to start the, quote, return to play protocol. And in the high school, college, and professional world, there's a definition for that. But in the youth sports world, nobody knows what the return to play protocol is. So what does the date on the note mean? And I hope the note's not written on a little prescription pad, which is very common in youth sports. So, and then parents are competitive, so they'll go to the emerging med down the street and get the provider to, twist the arm and sign the note. And where's the oversight of that? So can the administrator of the organization see the note from his or her phone and say, well, this doesn't really look like it might be valid. Maybe I need to call mom and dad about it and verify.
It would be something that you would have, obviously, in this app itself, but along another line of something you're very familiar with, the whole idea of head traumas and concussions, which would be in this medical records if there's been some history of that in youth sports specifically. And we'll go with my version of youth, which is the 8 to 14, the unserved window we're discussing. How prevalent are our concussions? How prevalent are head injuries?
Well, the scary thing is, we see statistics of, 1.5 million to 3 million, and that does go up through 17, 18. But then the most recent studies are quick to remind us that we really don't know, because like I had mentioned, we have somewhat of a repository of a database for high school, but we have ZIP for youth, that 5 to 14 underserved population. We don't have any data collection system. And that's one of the reasons I'm so excited about Team Safe Sports and some of the studies we're about to start. We want to capture that information. So we want to know, well, how many really are we having? What is the true incidence of youth sports concussion? What is really going on? Because we don't know.
Yeah.
We just don't know.
Wow.
And those underserved kids they're not getting the right follow-up. I can't tell you how many parents have come to me and said, does Johnny really need to go to the doctor because my deductible's $5,000 or I don't have insurance? Where's the guidance for these people? Again, in schools and whatnot, trainers, medical staff, there's some guidance, again, at least on paper, but in the youth world, where's the guidance? Nothing. And I hear, the stories really, really bad, of very poor follow-up, very poor handling of these injuries. And the kids still suffer.
Wow, that's incredible.
Months and years later. And they're kids, really kids. We're not talking about professional athletes that played like you. We're just talking about kids. So what we really want to do is prevent that second impact from occurring before the first one is truly healed. And they really need a team of specialists. You need that good primary care provider who can go do a good intake and then know whether or not they really need to go to somebody like a neuropsychologist and get more expert follow-up, and have that all as part of the team approach to handling this.
Wow. Just incredible information. Really, really appreciate you joining me. I want to remind people, if you need more information, it's info@teamsafeapp.com. If you really want to call, it's 800-400-4995. The website is teamsafesports.com. Dr. Stephen Horwitz, thank you so much for joining me. Appreciate it. And just got to wish you the best of luck in trying to help a whole lot of people.
Thank you so much. Love your podcast. Keep up the great work. Thank you.
All right, man. Thank you.